We look back at game one to see what the Celtics can fix in game two. Is this just going to be how difficult this series is? All that and a lot more right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster Brand, it's holiday season. Drop Drew in the mix, and 3 from KP. No, we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Deuce, still Beantown's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the Steve's game in Locked On after. Karalis on the breakdown, clutch like a tip from D. White on the breakdown. John on the mic, documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J's, how we started, raising business, how we finish. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. I got you covered every day here, Celtics fans, with a free, fresh podcast that drops directly to your device. You don't need to pay for it. It's going to show up there every Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts like when they play Game 3 on Saturday. I got a podcast for you, waiting for you when you wake up. So make sure you're subscribed. Watch the show on YouTube. Get into the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. I'm John Karalis. Used to play a long time ago. Now I'm a beat writer covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. Today we're getting into whether this is just a more difficult series than what we thought it might be. Is this just how tough it's going to be? Are the Pacers, is this what we should expect from the Pacers? What can the Celtics do differently? All of that stuff, plus some stuff left over from game one, media narrative, and all of that good stuff. We bring in Tom Westerholm. What's up, Tom?
What up?
Doing a little basketball thing. Oh, look at that. I do remember that. People on YouTube, that what that reacted to was a very cool fireworks effect. YouTube
we kept discovering it as soon as the episodes were over, and we kept saying, "Hey, we should do this."
Yeah. That's a little link into a little look back into when the show's over. We give each other the 2 thumbs up, and then we figured out that Tom's camera does fireworks in the back, and we're like, "Oh, that's fun."
Yeah,
I feel like it's a very dad thing to do. Like, oh, that gives you fire. Well, we should use that. We should use that. Woo, that's podcasting. Now let's see you do that, Brian Windhorst.
Now this is podcasting.
This is podcasting here. Brian Windhorst pitching a stray for no reason.
Hoop Collective.
Just an absolute a future Hall of Famer, and here I am with the fireworks background guy. Yeah. Take that.
Yeah, but you don't have that windy. With your millions of listeners.
And your significant paycheck and anyway, the fireworks were on the court in game one. That's right.
Now this is podcasting. All right,
is there anything in podcasting that podcasters like more than a transition, a segue?
There's not.
We love it so much we have to stop and grind the podcast to a halt to be like, whoa, that was something. So, all right, the Celtics, whose path was too easy, finally played a tough game, and now the game was too difficult. So we are in the Goldilocks world of media. I know you have the takes are flying around. I'm kind of done with the whole thing after this little conversation, because the bottom line to me is these are professional yakety yak talking heads. They are trying to get reactions out of us. So, and people are going to say they're moving the goalposts. That is one of the staples of these shows. The goalposts are on rollers. They're not set in the ground. They're going to move. They're supposed to move. So when something happens that contradicts a person's opinion, they get to change their opinion and go out there and yell and scream. And lo and behold, their social media teams are going to share those videos on social media, and people are going to share them and react, quote tweet and dunk on them, or quote tweet and be like, yo, that's right on, fire emojis or whatever. So it's all a game. I've said this before. It's all a game. Jayson Tatum's awesome and he sucks. It's the very cheaty. Y'all get A's and F's and it doesn't matter. That's where I am with this. But people are up in arms. So let's address it one more time.
No, I think it's fascinating, right? Because to me, that game was the perfect Rorschach test for how you want to look at the Boston Celtics. Because on paper, it doesn't get more clutch than getting the stop you need, making the big bucket that you need, and winning overtime. And at the same time, the other side is right too, that the Celtics needed some luck. They needed Halliburton to dribble the ball off. They needed Andrew Nembhard to just completely panic and throw the ball in a place that Pascal Siakam could not, they needed luck and they were clutch at the same time. So it's just, to me, it was so funny because it was, just take heaven for this. It could be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And it will drive the conversation for 24 hours until tonight's game when they get to move on to whatever tonight's we're recording this on Wednesday. Then the Timberwolves and the Mavericks can create the next 20 hours, which then the Celtics and the Pacers can create the next 24 hours. And it all builds and it's all perfect and everybody can get mad and everybody's blood pressure can go through the roof and our brains can all be cooked by social media. So nothing makes sense anymore. And it's playoff basketball, baby.
Yeah. I think the nuance, and this is why shows, podcasts, and I'm notorious on social media for just whenever something like this comes out, be like, hey, podcasts. And it's not just this podcast. Every podcast has the ability, because we're the people who come here and subscribe, diehard fans. They want to know more than surface level stuff. And so there is nuance. Jayson Tatum had 3 distinct stages of game 1. Yeah. He had the do a little bit of everything the first 3 quarters, to the point where he comes out at the end of the third quarter and the Celtics have a nice lead, and it kind of evaporates because he's not there, and the offense kind of stalls. So he was extraordinarily important, as evidenced by plus 20 in the plus minus. That was legit. I thought that it showed a lot.
Also, as evidenced by the schematics, Jayson Tatum as the screener in game 1 was deadly. That was really good. There was some really good stuff, side pick and rolls, all that kind of thing. The mismatches that created, whether he was the one who did it or not, and that's what we've said about Jayson Tatum from the start of the season is it kind of doesn't matter whether he's scoring or assisting. It's just him being involved is good. And that actually was one of the things that actually kind of drove me nuts about the conversation. It's I'm here. If you want to say that the Celtics didn't prove anything in game 1 about their clutch, whatever, I think that's fine. The idea that Jayson Tatum had a bad game until the last 2 minutes of overtime is wild to me. He was really good. He had a bad fourth quarter. He had a great quarter 1 through 3 and a great overtime.
That's right. That's it.
And one really terrible turnover in overtime.
Okay. The overtime turnover was horrible. And then really from there, he finished off and had one of the best scoring overtimes that we've ever seen. So, I mean, all of these things can be true at the same time. None of it is some commentary on his legacy and but look, people, listening here, you're listening, you're watching the show and you're just they do all, Anthony Edwards gets all the love. And Anthony Edwards had a 6 for 24 in game 7.
Game 7.
And you know what people were saying? It's kind of funny that he went 6 for 24 because Kobe Bryant went 6 for 24 in game 7 against the Celtics. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. The dude goes 6 for 24 and you're like, oh no, forget the Jordan. He's Kobe. You're like, whoa, but the fact is, Anthony Edwards is shiny and new, and he hasn't had years of playoff disappointment, which to be fair, the Celtics have had playoff disappointments. Yep. They did get all the way to the finals. They weren't ready for the finals. And they didn't win. That's how it goes, right? There's all these little things that you could say they've made it this far. They didn't make it far enough. And people, and it has looked similar. So people are equating a lot of things to Tatum and Brown, and Tatum especially. He's the better of the two. He's the quote unquote MVP candidate and all that stuff. And so Anthony Edwards and Nikola Jokic had a tiny little bit of it last year, but not really, not to that level. And so when you don't have that history, you don't get that thing. And Tatum had objectively better numbers. And you hear people, I listened to I did listen to the Hoop Collective, and I did listen to people say, "Oh, he wasn't good in this game." Like, whoa,
really, really smart people. For what it's
okay,
worth.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, okay, he wasn't good at that time in the fourth quarter. He was
Correct.
not good. That fourth quarter stretch was objectively bad, and he deserves the criticism for that. But the Celtics also deserve the praise for they stuck with it. They made plays. Tyrese Halliburton gave them a gift. Yes. That pass into Siakam, that was a gift, but also pressure from Jaylen Brown. And
Correct.
Jaylen Brown gets in there and makes them make that pass.
Another guy who incidentally people said had a bad game, who made like a bunch of really important defensive
I don't
plays.
know how you can say Jaylen Brown had
Right.
He was the
I
best
don't
player for the
understand.
Celtics in that game. He was awesome.
Really
He was
good.
great in that game.
Yeah.
And so
right there with you.
So he makes that play, and okay, that puts a little pressure. You put pressure on the other team, and they make a mistake. That's how it goes. And then he hits the shot, and then Tatum hits his shot. It was so funny. The best tweet that I saw was someone going like making fun of these arguments and being like, well, John Havlicek didn't really steal the ball. It was a gift. Hal Greer just kind of threw it to him. They collapsed. It really wasn't. And you're like, yeah, you know what? In that play, it was Bill Russell who threw the ball out off the guide wire and turned the ball over in that spot. And Havlicek had to make a steal, and he kind of like read the play. And yeah, it looks like, yeah, you can make that argument. I'm so happy Twitter didn't exist back then, because you know what we have in that moment? Havlicek steals it. Havlicek stole the ball.
Yeah. It does make you wonder. I know we're running long here on the first segment. It does make you wonder a little bit whether what we're going to remember is like people arguing over whether the Celtics were clutch, or if we're going to remember bang, bang, like one of 7 bang bangs. I think we're going to remember that it was one of 7 bang bangs.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to address that when we come back. Let me. Now I got more words. More words coming. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. You're hiring for a small business. I know how difficult that is. I know that a small business owner wears a million hats. You are, constantly looking at your bottom line, and you're desperate to get the right people in. It's hard to hire for a small business. LinkedIn Jobs has tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. The number one reason that they are better than other job boards, they have a network of more than 1 billion professionals. And it's not just job seekers. It's people who are open to work, open to a new job. They aren't actively seeking, but they've set that setting to say they're open for work, and LinkedIn can drop your job in their inbox. So that makes them very different and can help you find somebody super fast. It's so easy. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So be one of the 2.5 million small businesses that uses LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. You post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On Sports today. We're just talking about the talking heads, the arguing, the fakeness. Ugh, turn it off. Turn on Locked On Sports today. It's free. It's 24/7. It's streaming on YouTube. It's on the Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. All right, let's get back into this.
Before we do, All-NBA just came out. No Jaylen Brown. Jayson Tatum in.
No Jaylen Brown.
No Jaylen Brown. Jayson Tatum, first team. 0 Jaylen Brown.
Oh, that is unfortunate. How did Jaylen Brown not make All-NBA?
So, third team, we got LeBron, Steph, Sabonis, Tyrese Halliburton, Devin Booker. Second team, we had Kawhi, KD, Anthony Edwards.
I see. So the play-in team, Lakers, get 2 All-NBA guys, while the 64-win Celtics get 1 All-NBA guy. So that makes sense.
Everything you just said right there is factual. Yes.
Yes. So SGA, Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Tatum. That makes sense.
First team. The only question about the first team was whether it was going to be Brunson or Tatum, and it was Tatum.
And it's Tatum.
Yep.
By a
fair margin. Yeah.
Yeah. Brunson, Edwards, Durant, Kawhi, Davis. The Brunson momentum picked up in the playoffs.
It did.
And
honestly, it picked up toward the end of the season, like when I kind of am guessing some ballots were already in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then third team, LeBron, Steph, Sabonis, Halliburton, Booker. I'm happy that Sabonis is on. Yeah. I would take Halliburton off and put Jaylen on, because Halliburton had an amazing beginning to the season, but
he tailed off
in a big way. And Jaylen Brown didn't. And I think
and you cannot reward Halliburton for how good he's been in the playoffs and how good the Pacers have been in the playoffs. It's not a playoff award.
No, he tailed off a lot.
I agree. I think that's the one. Like if because you can't be like, oh, this guy should have made it unless you say like who shouldn't have.
You got to take somebody off. I'm taking
Halliburton
off.
I think it's got to be Halliburton. Yeah.
And I'll call up Tyrese Halliburton's stats here for a second. Now I'm onto something else. What was I saying before about I had words, and I don't even remember what words I had about the
about what we're gonna remember, whether it was bang bang.
Oh, yeah. We don't remember that stuff. Okay, this goes perfectly into all NBA. You don't remember first, second, third team, right? So I don't care. It doesn't really matter as much first, second, third team, because when you go to the Hall of Fame, they just say 10-time All NBA,
right.
12-time All Star. That's all they do.
That's
so right. that like we can talk about now this debate of the should you make it or not? Obviously that's something, but the debate of first, second, third, miss me with that, because in the end we don't remember, and we're not going to remember this rhetoric. We're going to remember bang, bang. We're going to remember that shot. That's going to be what floats around. If the Celtics win the championship, it's going to be that's going to be the natural sound pop. It's going to be music, and gets it over to Jaylen Brown. Bang. Like that's going to be the thing that you hear, and you can be like, yes, those things, are what persevere. That those things shine through. So we talk about the narrative. We want things to be perfect, and they're never gonna be. No. And this is why I don't like talking about the narrative stuff anymore. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but it's not genuine. It's all a show. It's all fake. They need to get ratings and clicks and all of that stuff. So when you put a show together, 2 hosts or 3 hosts and a producer are working for hours on the show about what they're going to say, what takes they're going to give, so they can get the stats, so they can get the video, so they can get the graphics made. It's not like to the 2 of us sitting here and we can have a loose kind of idea, but I don't know what you're going to say. And it's just an organic conversation. Yeah. Everything there is scripted out. They know what the other guy's the arguments they're going to make. And sometimes they will, save something for on the air to get natural reactions, but it's all just kind of pre-planned, all of that stuff. So whatever. Okay. Tyrese Halliburton, post All-Star, 17.5 points. This is the easiest way for me to do it. The injury happened on January 8th. He missed a bunch of time, but then he came back. So post All-Star is close enough. 17.3 points on 45% shooting, 30% from 3, 9.6 assists, plus minus was equal and all of that stuff. And it was 26 of the 69 games that he played. So look, Jaylen Brown was doing it all year long. This was the best season of Jaylen Brown's career. He made it last year, and that's no bearing on what he should do this year. But this was a better season, and I'm not going to sit here and say Jaylen Brown was screwed. I think people just kind of latched on to Halliburton because he had such an amazing hot start. It's just the first impressions, right? Jaylen started slow and then picked up, and a lot of the great stuff that he was doing was not the scoring, was not the primary ball handler guy. He was very clearly the second best player on the Celtics, and sometimes the best player on the Celtics. And so This is where I don't understand kind of tying all of this narrative stuff in. The Celtics, I don't know how the Celtics managed to win 64 games. They've got one All-NBA guy. They didn't get the coach of the year. They got the executive of the year, but that's
didn't bring any. He didn't. The executive of the year didn't bring in any good players because nobody won any awards.
No one won any awards. So you got a couple of good defenders. You got two guys on the all defense team. Okay, great. So that doesn't work. I don't know what the heck is happening here. I catch myself self-censor.
Look at that.
But good
job.
I never that deserves the fireworks. I never let one fly on this podcast. Very kid-friendly, very family-friendly. People do not understand how difficult it is for me. And I think Tom can attest how difficult it is for me to work clean because I do not work clean in real life. I don't know what's going on here. I really don't know what's going on here.
I think it's a couple things, right? I think you're right that it's like the hot start thing. I also think there is something to the point to the fact that I think if you look at the on-off, right? Halliburton has the best on-off of any player on the Pacers, plus 6.7 versus when he's off the floor. Jaylen actually pretty low on the Celtics, and obviously a lot of that is lineup, all that stuff, for sure. That's all bonus on NBA time. That's all all lineup based. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that, but I do think that's part of it, and I think that is kind of a catch-all way to describe part of what the thinking is with Halliburton, right? Is if you take him off the Pacers, that Pacers team is in trouble. He's their best player. The Pacers team was pretty good. You take Jaylen off the Celtics, they're in some trouble, but not as much as the Pacers would be without Halliburton.
Yeah, I get it. And then this gets into the reasoning, what makes a guy valuable and the MVP type of talk.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get it. I'm not saying that Halliburton didn't have a good season. I just don't know that he was one of the 15 best players. He was to start the season.
Yeah.
But I don't know
I think for me it's less about I would have probably taken Jaylen over Halliburton. For me, it's just it is a shame to see Jaylen's season go unrewarded, besides an all-star. It's just he was really good, really good season for a really good team. And, that's it's kind of a shame for Jaylen. I think he's just deserved a little bit better.
It's
than that. Short shrift.
I'll sum it up like this. Either your team has a bunch of good players that an idiot like me can go coach and they'll win 64 games, or they have a couple of good players and a good coach that deserves some recognition for coaching these guys and getting them to get the Celtics. I don't know. They found this sweet spot of a bunch of really good players that aren't not up this level, and a coach that's good, but he's not really getting all that. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just the argument is, hey, it just worked and whatever. No one player stands out, and you know what? Use it as motivation. Everybody use it as motivation, but you made a great point for once, that Jaylen Brown's season was too damn good to go unrewarded.
Yeah.
No all defense love, which fine. No all NBA love, because he's a two-way player. He's a legit two-way player. And having the offensive season that he had and the defensive season that he had. And you're telling me Tyrese Halliburton with half a great season and half an average season and a guy that gets targeted on defense is better, that's better than what Jaylen Brown was? That's crap. That's absolute crap. Now I'm mad because now we add that in, and now I'm mad because it really does kind of it missed the point. It just completely missed the point, and that's a shame. But Jaylen Brown's going to have to, lay on a bet of $289 million, and
maybe he'll be okay.
He'll, maybe the glow of a championship ring will be the nightlight as he drifts off to sleep on his bed of money. So he'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to talking basketball and the playoffs. which we kind of sort of did.
We got a lot of stuff to pack into this last.
And now we've got 10 minutes to talk about this stuff. So let's do that. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. I am a person who has gone to therapy, believes in therapy, advocates for therapy, and this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And, especially guys, I'll talk to the guys out there. Most of the audience here is guys. It's no shame in this. No shame in talking to somebody about how you feel. No shame in talking through some issues, things that make you feel bad, things that make you feel less than what you are. So if you're struggling a little bit, you can want to talk to a therapist. BetterHelp is a way to do it very easily because it's all online, right? So you can find a safe place to get things off your chest. You can work through whatever you're working through, and it's all designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist. And you know what? If you want to keep it to yourself, you don't have to make an excuse for going out somewhere. You can find an hour to yourself when you're home alone, and you can just do it in the privacy of your own home. Fire up the computer, fire up the webcam. You fill out your brief questionnaire, you get matched with your licensed therapist. If it doesn't work, if it doesn't click, you can switch, no additional charge, boom. And then when you feel better, you feel better. And that's the great part about it. So feel free to get stuff off your chest with BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's going to get you 10% off your first month on top of everything. Sign up at BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA. Hey, this is going to be the Thursday Locked On NBA, and I'm switching to Thursday this week because Nick Angsted's Dallas Mavericks are playing on Wednesday, and the Celtics played on Tuesday. So we switched days, and now I get to talk about Mavericks and Timberwolves. I keep wanting to say Denver, but it's Dallas in Minnesota. So go check out Locked On NBA. I'll be talking about the game after that game is played. Okay, Tom Westerholm. Let's get into Game 1/Game 2. I put the question here: is this tougher than expected?
So I love this question. Okay, real quick, I want to say I hate pre series predictions because it's never actually like a prediction. It's always a referendum on one team, right? It's never like if you say Celtics in 5, you're not actually saying I think the Celtics are going to win this series in 5 games. You're saying I think the Pacers stink. And like here's my thing. I think the Pacers are really good. I think the Celtics could sweep this series if they don't shoot themselves in the foot. But the thing about the Pacers is that their entire style of play is like putting a loaded gun in your hand and aiming it at your foot and then just jiggling your elbow as hard as they can and try to get you to shoot yourself in the foot. And like, I love that. Like, I kind of love this Pacers team. I think they're really tough. I don't know. I guess for me, it is a little tougher than expected. I didn't think that the Pacers were this good, and they've been really good.
They are really good as far as like the offense. They move so fast. They do so many things well. And so I was at practice on Wednesday afternoon, and Joe Mazzulla must have said they test your discipline about 30 times in his 10 minutes. He said it a lot. They test your discipline. And it's true.
Yeah.
Because they move at a speed that makes you make very quick decisions. And then as they are doing so, they throw in little wrinkles, like a ghost screen, where you think somebody's coming up to set a screen and they blow right past you. So then all of a sudden you're like, we're going to switch. Oh, no, that wasn't a screen. And now it's an uncontested layup. Or it puts you in rotation because now somebody's got to cover for you. They do these little things, and they find Pascal Siakam in places where he can get the mismatch. And they're getting great shooting. They're getting much better than expected shooting. The two guys that have targeted Al Horford down the stretch, Andrew Nembhard, who is shooting in the mid-range in the playoffs, 62.5%. That's about 10% better than he shot over the course of the regular season. Pascal Siakam.
The good news for the Celtics is that they have absolutely no history of outlier shooting and hurting them. So I'm sure that's fine.
Pascal Siakam was 4 of 7 in the mid-range. in the mid-range during the course of the playoffs, he is shooting 43%.
Yeah.
So like they did get hit with some outlier stuff. I think that we might see that might be the best the Pacers are going to play, in that I don't know that they're going to put up 150 as I say this, and it'll get played back when they put up 150. But they do a lot of things well. It is an absolute test of what Boston does defensively. But the other thing that stuck out to me, what Joe Mazzulla said was, he said 70% of the stuff that went wrong was execution. And that's all Boston. Yeah. And that to me is the most encouraging part of this, because within the pockets of this game that people will forget because of the way it ended were 3 distinct areas where Boston was executing well, getting the shots that they wanted, defending well, and they built 12 or 13-point leads. Where it fell apart was they stopped executing offensively, I thought. And their offense is tied to their defense so tightly that when they don't execute well on offense and the way the Pacers run, you got to get back. I think they can clean some stuff up. The Pacers, I would expect this type of performance from them every game.
Yeah.
It's up to Boston to figure out, can you take the 120, what did they score? 123, 128, 128.
128.
How many of those 128 can you knock off?
Yeah.
Can you get it down to below 120? Can you get it down to 115? I'll round it to 130, because I will expect 130 points a game from them. Now, of those 130 expected, can you take away a few from maybe Nembhard's not, maybe you can get him to miss some of those mid-ranges.
Can you take a few away from Turner? And then they did that in the second half, which I thought was really notable.
Can you take a few away from just the miscommunications on the switches? Yep. Can you take those few away? And then, hey, Halliburton hits 2 insane 3-pointers. One from the hash mark and one, up and under.
It's so crazy. That shot was, he was like, how they're like, oh, he shot that from the logo. And it's like, he shot it from like the end of the letter of the logo. No, he was like, that was,
he was like standing on Lucky's face. So that stuff will happen.
Yeah.
Can you take away the miscommunications on defense? Can you take away the points off of turnovers? Can you just protect the stupid turnovers, the stupid ones, right? Jaylen just losing it. Tatum just throwing it nowhere. Yeah. Those, can you, so there's,
and can you, and real quick on that though, shout out to the Pacers, whoever does the Celtic, whoever prepared that scout, because there were quite a few where the Pacers were sitting on the Celtics passing lanes on some of those cross court ones, there's a tip or, a couple of them that they just outright stole. Pretty well, not a great defensive team, but well prepared. That was pretty good.
I don't know if you remember, man, but I said this a long time ago this season. The Celtics, with their rim reads, just show a token pressure at the rim and they will kick it. Mm-hmm. And I said it months and months ago. I'm afraid that some team is going to sit there and be like, all you got to do, you don't even have to block the shot. You just got to get there and let them see you somewhere in the way. And they will look to the corners.
Because they'd rather have the open 3. They would.
That's what they want.
Mazzulla doesn't like the missed layups. He would literally rather have the open 3.
That's right. And there's a reason for that. It's a good reason, because the missed layups are damaging.
Absolutely.
But you can jump in those passing lanes. Mm-hmm. And so be aware. You might have to adjust your rim reads and be like, okay, I'm actually going to take a tiny chance on this. Just got to be aware of that. And there's a certain screening that you can do. You can make it so okay, these guys are going to be jumping in the passing lanes. You can find a way to run some action to keep that guy occupied and so on and so forth. So they're very smart people who are going to figure that out. Yes. But to me, it's cleaning up just these tiny, tiny mistakes. You got 6 points off of turnovers, 6 points off of miscommunications, right? Just 3 plays here and there off of those 2 things, and you're already at 12. So now you're down to 118. Okay, now if the Pacers score 118, I like the Celtics' chances. Now, if you can clean up a couple of just a couple more shots with challenges, just challenging guys where you missed the challenges, missed the rotations, get it down to 115. You get it down to below 115, Celtics are winning those games.
Yeah. I also think if the Celtics win, if, like, let's say the Celtics hold home court, right? Like, let's say they win.
Yeah.
At that point, I think that one big thing that's going to be the case is if Kristaps Porzingis comes back and is most of Kristaps Porzingis, the Pacers aren't going to have much for that. The amount of threes that Al Horford missed that the Pacers just were like, we're going to concede that shot because then we can stop a bunch of other things. If that guy's Porzingis, that three's probably going in.
Yeah.
I think that Porzingis coming back is going to kind of be, if that happens in this series, if that happens in game 4, like Woj was saying, I think that's going to be a real,
that's going to be a big wrench. That's going to be a big wrench.
Big old wrench for Indiana.
The Celtics can go double big.
Yeah.
Yep. And now that changes a lot if the Celtics can go double big. And it's one of the, we're 36 minutes into the podcast, and one potential adjustment that if Xavier Tillman is back, and I want to stress that I'm saying this, it's all on him. His father passed over the weekend. It's up to Xavier Tillman to decide when he's ready to come back. Yeah. If he has decided that he's ready to come back and he is available, the Celtics can go double big and play Luke Cornett in some of those minutes with Al Horford, and then you can throw Tillman in there. That's a wrinkle that the Celtics can go to, protect the rim, and then you can now have some fun on the perimeter defensively. So I can see a second quarter starting lineup with Jaylen, Holiday, Pritchard, and double big. And that could be a way to go. So if I'm looking for a potential lineup adjustment, that's something I'm going to watch out for.
Yep. No, I think that's smart.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not gonna ask for anything more. When you call me smart, I'm done with the podcast. Thanks a lot.
There.
Appreciate you as
always. Wait.
Well,
good pod.
Pew pew pew.
Ooh, and the little thumbs up.
Oh, and the Facebook thumbs up. All right. That's enough of Tom's fun with graphics. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you're with me after the podcast, after the game, post-game podcast. Admittedly, late, the one I posted after game 1, posted at about 5 a.m. So it'll be there. If you're one of those early risers for work, like my buddy Gabe, who texted me, is like, "Where's the podcast?" Yeah, I know, dude. It's there. It'll be there. It's going to be there early. So please bear with me in these late games and late media availabilities. But just make sure you're subscribed and get onto that YouTube page, get into the comment section, and share the podcast. Please tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.